Do we really need comics to interfere with our everyday lives? Do you remember a time when you were able to pick up an issue of the latest comic you were into and it wasn't trying to espouse some political agenda? It was just trying to entertain the throngs of fans that were waiting intently to read the next issue, to get the next chunk of story. Now, all of a sudden, and I say all of a sudden because Polygon brought it to my attention, but I'm not gonna be foolish here and to think that this hasn't been happening for ages. It's been happening for quite a while, I'm sure. But let's give comic studios like Marvel the benefit of the doubt just for this video and say they only started this political infiltration since, let's say, 2010, right? Let's pretend for a second that that's when all the BS began. Anyways, in this article on Polygon, and you can see it here, we're getting political aspects of the real world entering into these made-up fantastical worlds, which is absolutely ridiculous. Do you remember when comics were supposed to be the things that help you escape from the real world? If you were feeling down and out, you knew that your favorite hero would make you feel better because they were taking out some great villain, and you couldn't wait to see it happen. Well, apparently that's not a thing anymore. They've given up on that, and now they're just trying to give us some sort of random idea that they want us to believe and that they want us to think about. I mean, look, don't get me wrong, that's still a thing. Our favorite heroes will still take out a massive villain, but studios these days are more interested in making some political point with their comics. This is how brainwashing begins, by the way, and then there's the groups of people who want everyone to be afraid of places like 4chan and Reddit because they supposedly breed dissenting opinions within society and they create psychopaths. This is what we're meant to believe, but comic studios, now it's impossible for them to breed psychopaths. Absolutely impossible when they give us ideas like these. This needs to stop. My comic life needs to perhaps, not be invaded by crummy ideas like these. And my comic storylines? They don't need to be directly affected by real-world happenings that I'm trying to escape from, which is probably the main reason I try and read comics. I don't want to live in the real world. If I wanted to live in the real world, I wouldn't be interested in superpowers. I don't know. Maybe that's a thing that I need when I'm reading my comics and not to have to believe in some BS that is coming from the real world and is now invading my comics. That's the problem, right? Let's get into this article. The title, by the way, already tells me just how bad this is starting to get, right? This is the title. Captain America fought a militia to protect undocumented migrants this last week. And I can honestly say that this is already ridiculous. Look, I mean, I get it, okay? Events like this are actually possible in the Marvel universe of comics. But do they really need to happen while it's a hot topic in our everyday life? Does the comic need to use Captain America to herald that idea that we need to protect undocumented migrants? Now, I'm not going to lie to you guys and say that I've read the issue or any surrounding that topic, but it doesn't look like I actually need to. The obvious message here is to America and how they're handling the undocumented migrants. Anyways, let's get into the article itself. It begins, if there were ever an example of how the meaning of Captain America can mutate, it would be Marvel Comics in August of 2019. On the one hand, you've got Mouse creator Art Spiegelman withdrawing his introduction to a collection of World War II era Marvel comics rather than remove a line where he compared President Trump to the Red Skull. Then there was Marvel seeming to edit a Cap-themed essay in the Marvel 1000 Anniversary one-shot to be less critical of America. And then, on the other hand, you've got Steve Rogers defending undocumented migrant workers and the United States southern border by beating the crap out of a Confederate flag-wearing local militia. This is ridiculous. All as part of an attempt to rehabilitate his image after the whole Hydra thing. The politics of superhero comics is usually a tangled knot, but this is a little ridiculous. And that's probably where I begin to agree with Polygon and the funniest thing ever. But just this, to be fair with you, by the way, is just the beginning of this article. And we already have talk about Trump being compared to Red Skull, why, and a Cap-themed essay that is needed to be edited to make it less critical of America. Seriously, do we need any of this? Do we need any of this kind of stuff that coming into our comics? Do we need to have huge messages sent out by our comic book heroes? And here's the thing, by the way. These same people would call out things like video games. These people that are writing these comics, that are writing writing these storylines, they would call out video games for making people more violent, but not comic books, okay? For making people hate their own country. The comic books are acceptable, but video games, that's where we have an issue. This is where the violence starts. By giving people, a small idea. It's not the characters that I'm going to blame. I'm not blaming people like Captain America or Red Skull, whoever you want to use in these comics. I'm not even blaming the comics themselves. I blame the writers of these comics and the studios like Marvel for making comparisons between major villains and the current president of America, or even giving some form of acceptance of the hatred of America itself. This is the kind of stuff that isn't right. This is the kind of things that need to be stopped. And this, to be honest with you, is where the problems begin for America. Anyone who's happy with stories like these would never think that there's a problem with this type of idea. Imagine, just for 1 second, by the way, for one moment that we were to put someone who's, let's say, homosexual in a comic like this and compare them to, let's say, the Red Skull, or even the X-Men villain Apocalypse, or literally any other comic book villain that people love to hate. Would there be the same level of acceptance for this type of act? Or would these same groups who say, oh, this is great, we need to talk about these type of topics, talk about things like hate speech if this was done with a homosexual character, and hatred, and all of these things, and all the other junk that they actually espouse on a daily basis that doesn't need to be aired in the comic book format? Now, just so we're very clear, by the way, I'm not hating on homosexuals, and I'm not hating on Trump. Whatever you think of him, that's up to you. I don't really care, okay? And it's fine if you hate him or if you love him. That's up to you, and that's completely your decision, okay? I don't care if you hate or love America either. But these types of messages, they don't need to be put into our media, and especially not our comics. Just think for one second, okay? 1 second about how many parents will push their children off into books like comic books or picture books like these. Like pretty much any Marvel comic that isn't obviously written for adults, because they think that it's encouraging their children to start reading. And picture books are a great start for children, right? Do we not agree with this? Little did those parents know, though, while they were putting their children into reading Marvel comics like these, with ideas like Trump being compared to the Red Skull, that their children are going to grow up hating America because Captain America was fighting against America. Just think about it. Captain America is fighting against America. That's how ridiculous this is getting. It's I can't even begin. It's just insane. And yet, this is the world that we're allowing to be created, allowing groups like this to infiltrate and write self-loathing stories about the countries that they hate to live in, apparently. Allowing children to read these comics and have ideas planted in their brains for ways that they believe that they should be thinking. It's disgusting, okay? It's more disgusting than many view Trump, okay? That's just think about that for 1 second. There's not going to be a group of people who say that stories like these, where we compare the current president of America to a very heavy villain in Captain America, they want to glorify those stories and have stories like this consistently be part of the topic that we're having. And yet, if we were to criticize anything in the real world, they have problems with that. And then they talk about websites like 4chan brainwashing people. This is brainwashing on another level. And this, to be fair with you, is somehow a more accepted level of brainwashing that we have. Keep your comic books and your politics separate. And that's not, look, I understand that there's always going to be a little bit of comics seeping in, or politics, seeping into the comic book world. I get that. But I don't want it to be very blatant and obvious. Little remarks and small things, okay, I understand. But when you make like proper comments and things like that, comparing the current president of America to Red Skull, and yes, that is going to be something that I refer to a couple times in this segment, because you can't do that, okay? You shouldn't be allowed to do that. And you know what? You might hate President Trump, but he's the president of America, so show him some damn respect, especially if you're an American. I don't care if you hate the president. That's fine. You can hate him, but he is the president. He's the leader of your country, so you show him some respect. It's the same way with us in Australia. We might hate the prime minister that we have, but he's our prime minister, so we should show him at least a little bit of respect. Criticize his ideas, but let's not put it into a comic book format where we can brainwash children and then wonder in 10 to 15 years why they're starting to cause all of these attacks and hurting people and shooting people and mass murders, because we were not trying to blame the comic books. How can a picture book ever affect a child? How can a picture book change someone's attitude toward America? Well, it can when you have a dissenting opinion in it that tells children essentially that they should hate America because of what America is doing. Okay, that's all from me, guys. If you enjoyed this video, hit that thumbs up button. It lets me know what kind of stuff you want to see in the future, what kind of stuff I should talk about, and consider subscribing to the channel if you haven't already. Also, if you haven't as well, check out some other videos, because you know what, you never know, you might like what you see. And as always, guys, when you step away from this computer today, remember to spread some peace, spread some love, and always spread some positivity. And I will see you in the next video, guys. Bye.